St Kilda best 23. This one looks fun to me. This is a lot of new players, a lot of potential breakout players. There's conversations around what the expectations are for St Kilda, which I think are a really interesting discussion point as well, because you bring in that many players, you pay the big money, you do all of those things. The expectations will come. I think now with a top 10 in an 18-team competition, if this Saints team going through it, and it wasn't until I did this exercise where I actually started to notice there are some seriously good players at this football club. If everybody is fit for the majority of the season for St Kilda, they have to make finals this season. They have to at least make that top 10. And I think they should have their sights on something even a little bit bigger than that when they've got let's be honest, a legacy coach, but still a superstar coach in Ross Lyon. I think they have the right players to play his football. A lot of athletes, high intensity runners, guys that can run at speed and power. This will suit Ross Lyon's game. So I've tried to pick a team around that. I've tried to balance experience with quality and new players coming through that are high draft picks, etc. But I've also tried to play a modern game with a lot of utility, a lot of players that can play multiple positions and test the opposition as well. So let's kick into it. Let's start with this defense with the most obvious player that just has to be picked in this team, which is Cal Wilkie. I would have him almost straight up. I could just say he's the fourth best key position defender in the competition for me. I would have him behind Wiedering. I'd have him behind Sam Taylor. I'd have him behind Harris Andrews, but no one else. He clears everybody else in the competition. What a player he has become. I'm not sure how many All-Australians he's picked up in total now that I'm thinking about it, but he's such a versatile player, such a well-balanced defender, never gets pushed off the ball. You cannot rock this guy. I think he's got the mentality of the top-level players, and he could play on anyone. Just unbelievably versatile as a player overall. Silvani comes into this team, and he is the first of the new recruits. I think he instantly strengthens this defense. And one thing that I like about Silvani, he can play close to goal. You can have him isolated and he can do a pretty good job there, but he can get higher up the ground. He could play on somebody like a Jeremy Cameron. He could go with them physically. He's obviously going to get trapped by someone like Jeremy Cameron at times, the way that he can spin in and out of traffic, and sort of his ground level skills are going to be a little bit better than someone like a Jack Silvani, but he can lock down on most players. And I think he even has that versatility to play on some medium types. You get those resting hybrid midfielder types, the mid forwards like a De Goey or a Petrarca. He can kind of cover those sorts of guys. He's not too big and slow and cumbersome like some key position defenders. So he'll be important. And also just giving this team depth. I mean, if you look at the players that I've got here, you're looking at Howard, Caminiti. You probably don't want to be playing both of those guys, but Silvani just gives a little bit of a rest there. I will go to that 50-50 battle there because I think it's a genuine 50-50 battle. Who do you pick? Caminiti or Dougal Howard? Pick your poison. The youth of Caminiti. And I know he's maligned. I know he's a bit of a whipping boy for Saints fans at times. He can make those high-profile errors, and since he's gone to the back line, that becomes worse because I think when he was playing as a second or a third key position forward, you don't see the errors as much. I mean, you see when he doesn't get into the game, or you see when maybe he doesn't go up for a contest and doesn't compete as hard as he possibly could. But when he's behind the ball, if he turns it over, you're gone. Goodbye. So that's tricky, but there's definitely across the last two seasons in watching him play, and particularly last year when he was exclusively a key defender pretty well, I see something in him. I see an exuberance. I see a confidence that not every player has. And I think that, just those moments where you see that he could fist the ball over the line, but he decides that he's going to take the intercept mark. He'll run that extra step with the ball, and there is a confidence there that can come unstuck, but I like him. And in this situation, when you've got Wilkie there, you've got Silvani, who are both experienced operators, as well as Liam Stocker, who sits there as a small medium defender. I've gone with Caminiti. I'm excited by him. Dougal Howard will have to be the next man in, and possibly will be. If players pick up injuries, he is going to be in there. But there's just that little bit more depth now and a little bit more excitement to this defense. Liam Stocker is probably the perfect medium-sized defender. I think he's kind of learnt how to be a better defender going into the midfield and playing those defensive roles in there as well. It makes him a better ground level player. And to be able to take those Nick Watsons and Brian Myers and Dylan Moore types now, you need to be a player like Stocker. You need to have that, not just the aerial game and being able to follow someone around. You need to get proactive, get on the ball yourself, and Stocker can do that really, really well. Now, don't expect that it's only going to be Stocker playing this sort of medium defensive role. I think Liam O'Connor could come into this team. I was really, really impressed by him. And if we talk about this sort of ethos of Ross Lyon, which is a very, very dynamic, high pressing game style. They get in the face of the opposition and they want to be really, really ruthless defensively. I think the athleticism of Liam O'Connell is almost maybe better suited to that than somebody like a Stocker. But I think you go with the experience and the quality of Stocker overall. But Liam O'Connell could come in for Stocker at times, I feel, and he also could just be an added inclusion to this defense. Maybe you go a little bit smaller and you play an O'Connor who can get up really high, use his running ability, and even come into the wing roles as well. So you've got those two distributors there in Jack Sinclair and Toby Travalia, and I just think this is the perfect mix here. So you've got the guys that are good with ball in hand. Sinclair is the control, he's the experience, the retention guy, really. He's just going to chip the ball around in defense, set you up, get high, kick the ball inside forward 50 and be a threat for the opposition. Score involvement machine, goal assist machine. He's going to be that. But Toby Travalia is going to be more of that athletic, run and gun, chaotic type defender. He's going to get up and back. And like I said, playing into that Ross Lyon game style where you've got to be dynamic, you've got to be high press, Travalia is going to be really, really important. He played his best football in 2024 as a draftee, playing as that. He was sort of because he was so good at that age, he was playing as that more sort of leadership intercepting defender. But I think for the Saints, he's not going to be relied upon as much to be an interceptor and just more be a runner with the ball. He's probably got to tidy up some of his kicking, but he's such a good athlete, such a good runner that he suits this team so well. And we'll give them, like I said, an air of chaos, which I really like about that. When you've got the yin and yang of the Sinclair control and the Travalia chaos, I think that works perfectly. Alex Tyree, the Flying Viking. Now, I've got him as a defender here. I know he played forward late in the season, and he also did in his draft year in 2024. He kind of swung between, he can even play a little bit of midfield, so he's a very versatile option, Tyree. I think he's going to be that swing player. I think if you look at Hawthorn as that archetype in this sense that they're a team that likes to swing those defenders forward, swing the forwards back, make changes, test the opposition. I think he can do that with Tyree. He's could play a wing role. He could play lots of different positions on the field. So I'm starting him here as a bench defender, but however you want to look at that, if he's a forward, if he's a defender, I probably just think at the moment with, if everybody's fit, and I'm assuming pretty much everyone's fit, I know there's some question marks around Max King, that there's probably still more opportunity, and there's more opportunity to be that hybrid type as a defender, more so than a forward. I think as forward options in your team, you're looking for those big ground level contest players, and Tyree isn't necessarily that. He's more of an aerial player. So I still like what he does behind the ball. He can float forward and make an impact there as well. If we go through to the midfield now, if my mouse is going to work for me, let's just see this. So who have we got here? We've got some new faces in this midfield, and this is probably a combination here of new faces and players that could potentially break out that haven't quite broken out and gone to that top level, I think is what we're looking at here with the Saints midfield. The question is it going to be able to all gel together so that the Saints can have a really consistent season? That's still up for debate, but I think the first 5 to 6 rounds of this season are going to tell us a lot. TDK is going to be an animal in there for the Saints. I think he already was doing that early in 2025 for Carlton. I think once the trade rumors, the speculation, and ultimately I think he probably made up his mind middle of the season last year, did Tom De Koning with this offer from St Kilda. He kind of knew there wasn't much on the line. Carlton were doing terribly. So he comes into a new side. He's refreshed. He's reinvigorated. And I think he's going to be explosive for this midfield. There's new faces in here. We go around. Nasiah Wanganeen-Miller I have there. We've got Philippou on the bench there. We've got Windhager in the guts. We've got Sam Flanders as a new face in there. So you look at the likes of Philippou and Windhager, very different players, but both players that haven't really properly broken out yet. I think Windhager had his best season in 2025 and can be that defensive anchor for the St Kilda Football Club here. I think Flanders is going to be that first hands player, just that really tidy, composed, balanced midfielder that you can use at times as a sweeper in defense where he rolls across the back and just sets up play. He did that beautifully for Gold Coast at times when he played across halfback, but also when he came into the midfield as well. As I said, you've got the sort of chaotic, exciting Tom De Koning that can be just bash and crash in there. I think the new ruck rules are really, really going to suit him. And he'll have Rowan Marshall as a bench option here as well, who will float forward, but he'll be a really nice partner for him. So the Saints aren't going to have any problems when they don't have Tom De Koning on the ground. There's not really going to be that void in the ruck for them. Rowan Marshall comes in and he's an excellent number one in his own right. Nas is Nas. I don't even think we need to discuss him because he's just absolutely so brilliant. We are looking at the best player in the competition. I feel like he was built in a lab to play this game. He's got everything. He's elastic. He can float. He can move. He can drive. Beautiful foot skills. Whether he's a halfback flanker, whether he's a mid, he will just go everywhere where the ball is, and the Saints players will be obliged to give it to him. As I said, not Philippou, Windhager is going to be that defensive anchor, and you need, again, I'm going to talk about it a lot throughout this best 23 for St Kilda. They're going to want to play this high pressing game, and it's a high energy return. Having a Marcus Windhager who can run like that at high speed, yes, he's not the absolute best quality on the ball, but you don't need that. He is going to do a job, and Flanders is going to help him in there. You're going to have I was about to say Jack Steele. You're going to have a Mateus Philippou coming off the bench here, and his quality is going to be really important. His size is going to be really important. His reach, along with Nasiah Wangan and Miller, so he can come in there and be a bit of a spotter. But I think on field to begin with, I've gone Nasiah, I've gone Windhager, and I've gone Flanders for the balance overall. Coming in off the wings, Mason Wood. So this is a 50-50, and I don't think all St Kilda fans are going to agree with me here, but I've gone Mason Wood over Brad Hill, and I think it's one or the other. I think you go for the experience on one wing, who have just done it season after season after season, and then the opposite wing, you go for Darcy Wilson, the athleticism, the possible midfield utility, the possible forward utility that he provides. Because of his outstanding aerial game and the speed that he brings, he's probably the closest thing from a rival club to Ollie Dempsey at the moment. He hasn't had a season like Ollie Dempsey, but he could do that with his athletic profile and his skills. That bag of 5 that he kicked late in the season, I think, was something of a showcase for what he can do in 2026. So I'm excited about him. I think it's still going to be on the wing, though. When you look at the team, you look at those inside mids, Wilson probably has to play more of an outside role. Brad Hill misses the team for me. As I said, Philippou on the bench, and we'll move through to the forward line. But I am excited about that midfield. That is, if everybody's fit, super, super exciting. The forwards, the key forwards. So I have gone for King. Now, he's been plagued by injury. Apparently, the club's kind of trying to hide a little bit again that he might be seriously unfit for the 2026 season. Assuming that he's there, he obviously plays. I think you just play him as close to goal as possible. You put the ball on his head, you get him to compete and hopefully kick 50 plus goals if everything is going well for him. The second key forward there I've gone for is Sharman. I think this guy is really, really underrated. He kicked 34 goals he's a weird one. He's a guy that gets up the ground. I feel like he just gets involved in play, and you see him coming up when the Saints are trying to exit defense. He's just a really good target for them to sort of come inside a little bit, be a target through the corridor, and one of those kind of beacons and poles that comes up the wing to compete. And I love that about him. You can leave that open forward 50 really, really clear for the likes of Owens and Hall and Garcia and Higgins to run into, but he really gets back hard as well, just to be an option. Sometimes can be a handball chain in one of those kind of late, deeper, closer to goal chains. I love him. I think he easily gets into this team. I think the other key position forwards that you would consider here, I mean, Rowan Marshall's going to come off the bench. He's going to play second ruck and forward and be a bit of a swingman. You've got Isaac Keeler, who is close and I think is a potential to start in this team if a Max King isn't fit. But I think they would rather go with the more experienced players. And I know Keeler even played a little bit behind the ball as well, but I think you wouldn't pick him over any of the guys that I've got in this team. Owens is the third for me. So he's an interesting one. I suppose you could play 3 key position tools. Like you could go Keeler, King, and Sharman, and then have Owens as more of a medium small type. He is that kind of player, but I'd rather go a little bit smaller here, have a mosquito fleet, bothering the opposition, finding difficult matchups. I'd rather that and have those ground ball players more so than the extra tall. So Owens becomes the third tall. 29 goals for him in 2025. Garcia and Max Hall, super, super important. What a player Max Hall has become. Definitely the best player out of that 2024 mid-season draft that had in the end, what was it? It was Jack Hutchinson was in there, Geordie Payne was in there, Jacob Blight, most of who have been delisted, and Max Hall looks like a top 10 player at the club. I'm not sure where he finished in the end in their best and fairest, but he kicked 23 goals. He had 0.7 goal assists per game and 5.4 score involvement. So if you put him up against like a Brian Myers, who plays a similar role, that high forward gets up to stoppage, Myers only had the 14 goals. He had 0.8 goal assists to Max Hall 0.7, and he had 7 score involvements to Hall's 5.4. So Myers is a little bit more of that creator than Hall, but Hall did get it on the scoreboard ultimately. So I think that shows you the quality that Max Hall has become and the importance that he's had. He even got midfield minutes late in the season. I wouldn't be pushing for that with Philippou and Windhager. I'd be giving them as much exposure, giving Flanders, who's got that new mid-roll sewn up. They're a little bit more like a Flanders, for example, a little less versatile. Windhager, a little less versatile. Hall can play as that specialist high forward. And it's a difficult role to play because you can get lost, you can get stuck, you can get out of the play. And he seems to always find a way to keep himself busy, get in a handball chain, hit a kick inside 50 and be that goal assist creator. Jack Higgins kicked 48 goals and would have been their top goal kicker for the season. He was incredible, particularly early. But I think if they get a full season out of Max Hall playing his best footy, they get a potentially broken out Hugo Garcia. That'll take a lot of the load off Jack Higgins. And then if you also get a fully fit Max King, look out. Now, I've gone for Liam Ryan on the bench. He was number 2 for goals at West Coast last season. Now, you might laugh at me there and say, well, he played for West Coast. Who really cares? But that is still significant. And his versatility gives you a little bit here as well. I think he's got the ability to go up and play a little bit higher and play as a winger. But he, again, takes a bit of pressure off Jack Higgins. You don't really want to rely on Jack Higgins kicking 48 goals again in 2026. And I don't think that is going to happen. So having a quality deeper small forward with a craft closer to goal like a Jack Higgins. And then you've got the Garcia and the Hall, more of those Fitbit aerobic guys that get up to stoppage and clear space for these guys to operate. I think it's absolutely moi. Tyroo is the other one. So I've got Tyroo not on this forward line, but he will swing forward at times. I have no doubts about that. And he's a real weapon that Ross Lyon can use to come in, take big marks and create headaches for the opposition, create overloads. He's going to be a big one. Here is my interchange. So Tyroo starting on the bench as that defensive option, Philippou as the midfield option, Garcia as the forward option. Rowan Marshall will swing forward, but is more of that, second running ruckman. And then I had a really, really difficult time with this, figuring out what I was going to do. Jack McRae, who's been a bit of a whipping boy for me, or Hugh Boxall. I would be inclined to go the youth if everybody's fit and you have experience out on the field. I'd be inclined to go for Hugh Boxall, but you've probably got to reward McRae for the season that he had. He did play well, particularly early. Again, he was in the top 10 in the best and fairest as well. One of the better, more consistent perform players for the Saints. And I think having his really speedy hands and his feet in at midfield, the craft that he has, probably helps this young team overall. I think they'll start with McRae, but I wouldn't be surprised to see Hugh Boxall get into this team in the long term. He's a serious runner and another great defensive midfielder that can complement this team overall. So he would be the next in for me, Boxall. And this is how I have gone with their main team. Now, to discuss some of the guys that have missed out, I mentioned Brad Hill. I just think he's aging a bit. I think you want to keep him around for the club person that he is. He's someone that the younger players look up to and the older players really respect as well. So I think he's important to this team, almost from an off-field and development point of view more than anything else. Clark didn't quite make it. I just think he's long enough into his career and he hasn't really shown enough that you would guarantee him a position if everybody is fit. And I think there's better younger players that you'd want to expose early. Howard, I went with Caminiti, but that could be a 50-50 coin split with him. I think you could go either. Howard's a little bit taller, probably a little bit more of a lockdown. Caminiti probably a bit more of a runner and someone that can play on more versatile types as well. Henry misses out on this team. I just think he's been injured. He's been inconsistent and you can't really reward that at this point. Although a wing spot is probably not out of the question at some point during the season. Keeler misses out because of the way that I wanted to set up. And I think you've got the swingman coming from defense. You've got Marshall. You've got Tyroo that can play there as well. You don't really need that extra tall. Barrett, I love, but we haven't really seen him at AFL level, and I haven't really been tracking him in the VFL. I think he's probably still some time away. Dodson, Hastie's close and could get a role, I think, with certain matchups when there's a lot of small forwards to deal with. He could just take him out of the game, and I think he'll come in for certain matchups. Butler, small forward, getting older. Is there enough quality to warrant him when you've got these fit young players, high intensity running players over somebody like that? I think you pick the younger player. Paddy Dow doesn't make it, and nor does Jack Carroll. So that is my best 23 for St Kilda. Let me know what you think in the comments below. If you haven't liked the video or subscribed to the channel, make sure you do. And yeah, overall for St Kilda, expectation-wise, I think they'll get a little bit of grace early for this team to be able to gel together. But I think if they're playing poor football towards the end of the season and they miss the finals, I think there will be some serious questions being asked with the off-season deals that they've done. I like what they've done. I like that they've gone after it and sort of gone for something specific, and we can see these bumps up the ladder, and at least they're attempting something. They're trying something new, bringing quality, helping their list is always a good thing. So I love it, but it's got to work out for them.